Hi students, welcome back. So now we are talking about the last UN SDG goal in CM3261 environmental chemistry that concerns us. And that's goal number 15. What's goal number 15? Life on land. It's all about sustainable land management, and here are two main issues we'll be discussing more. You should pay a bit more attention. Number one is human health, how an increase in unsustainable farming will increase the exploitation of wildlife that will lead to the increase of the emergence of zoonotic diseases. You might think that this is a global issue that doesn't contain Singapore, but I'd like to dig deep and see how it connects to our own ecosystem. The second part is about climate crisis. We know that there's deforestation and land degradation that result in a diminished biodiversity. The habitats of animals and creatures are decreased, and there's disappearance of the livelihood in the rural communities, and also increase in carbon emissions. So what can Singapore do in terms of life on land? So a bit of background, right, on Singapore's need to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystem, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification and hot and reserve land degradation and hot biodiversity loss. Now, since independence, right, in 1965, Singapore's vision was to transform our island into a garden city with abundant, lush greenery. So we spent a lot of budget there, and that was the vision of our early leaders, enacted through policies such as the tree planting campaign. And that was beginning of our time by our first Prime Minister of Singapore, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. He planted the first tree in this initiative in 1963, 2 years before our independence year. And that was the green cover for Singapore. Since then has increased by more than 40%. Now today, Singapore's vision is to become a biophilic city in a garden, where the environment attribute to Singapore's overall well-being. So, the urban biodiversity conservation is a key aspect of our sustainable development strategy. Now, due to our location within the Sunderland Biodiversity Hotspot, right? So, this is the Sunderland Biodiversity Hotspot, where Singapore is rich in native biodiversity, but at the same time, we are also one of the most densely populated city-states in the world, right? 6 to 7 million coming up. And this presents considerable challenges for biodiversity conservation, and we need to constantly balance the competing needs for land use. But the good thing is, right, Singapore has currently 4 legally gazetted nature reserves, 4, okay, and 20 other administratively protected nature reserves that span natural habitats like the primary dryland forest, the tall secondary forest, freshwater swamps, the rocky shores, mangrove, mudflat, seagrass beds, and coral reefs. So you see in the map here, right, you see the color scheme. About 70% of the Sunderland has been heavily modified by human. Now there's some challenges in goal number 15. First of all, it's about the habitat fragmentation. So habitat connectivity is very crucial, as we talked about in the last goal, right, in biodiversity conservation. So the flora and fauna require a minimum area to sustain the population. Without enough land mass, you can't even propagate well. So the urbanizations result in the fragmentation of habitats, where natural areas are bisected by the roads that we create, that were paved by our bitumen and other developments. So the edges of the habitat are more susceptible to fragmentation, right? And like the edge effect, where they are largely attributed to air, noise, light pollutions from developed areas of human activity. But Singapore has some solutions, and one of it is the City in Nature experience. Now, this is the latest updated version, right? The Round Island Route RIR is added 150 kilometers to the existing park connector. So, initially we have all these park connectors around the north, south, east, west of Singapore, but now you connect it. So it becomes the whole Round Island Route, right? You connect it, you can run, you can cycle, and there's also connectivity among the natural areas. So it's really a beauty to walk, and take a stroll to exercise. Now, the other example is Singapore's effort to link up the habitats, right? The Eco-Link BKE. If you have been through this part of Singapore near Kranji area, along Bukit Timah there, right? This is the Eco-Link at BKE, which is what we call an hourglass shape, right? Ecological bridge along the BKE, Bukit Timah Expressway. So this Eco-Link at BKE connect Singapore's Bukit Timah and Central Catchment Nature Reserves in a bid to mitigate fragmentation effect due to the construct of this expressway. This expressway was done in 2011, right? But why we did this, right? So we need to mitigate this effect here. It was completed in 2013, 2 years later, at a total cost of 17 million Singapore dollar. So you see all these plants, right? It wasn't there. So native plants were planted on the bridge to encourage its use by the fauna on either side. Over here, all these are all these are planted here, replanted here. So we also conduct monitoring programs to ascertain this effectiveness of the bridge. Right, over time, if you from data from studies, if we see that it's effective, we might even build more such link bridges along different parts in Singapore. Now, but sadly, right, in the past 200 years, Singapore has lost about 35% of her plant species, and some years ago, we had this parliament debate. It was announced that there was an accidental clearance of woodlands, right, further aggravate and negatively impact Singapore's biodiversity, right? It was the crunchy woodland due to some miscalculations or negligence. Right, but the good news is, right, the government also have the agency to conduct, habitat enhancements and restoration. So, for instance, in 2009, right, Singapore opened the Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park, right? It's joined now, right? In a bid to, located in central Singapore, to successfully restore the habitat and enhance and have a design upgrade. So this park originally contained a concrete canal that ran its entire length, but then it was redeveloped under the ABC water program. ABC stands for Active, Beautiful and Clean, right? Very easy, catchy to remember. So under this ABC water program, it changed into a meandering, naturalized river known as Kallang River. So through this joint collaboration between the PUB, right, and the NParks, right, the Kallang River was integrated into the park's surrounding through the use of the natural materials to shore up its riverbank. In 2015, the government also initiated a recovery program, right, species recovery program, to prioritize the conservation of 60 native species by introduction, habitat enhancement and protection. There's one of some picture. So what can we do as ordinary citizens? Right, we can be involved in a community, we're all part of the stakeholders. Now, good thing is, right, in 2011, there was the launch of this CIN, Community in Nature Initiative, right, to engage the community to conserve Singapore's natural heritage. So this CIN includes outreach events, citizen science programs such as biodiversity surveys, public talks, and guided walks for members of the public. And whenever possible, these are tied to international initiatives such as the UN International Day for Biological Diversity on 22nd May. And Singapore also collaborated with the local NGOs through the Biodiversity Roundtable to organize annual Festival of Biodiversity, which is a flagship outreach event to celebrate the community's effort to conserve Singapore's natural heritage. Now, another highlight of this CIN program, right, is the citizen science program, which volunteers conduct survey of various animal groups such as a butterfly, birds, and dragonflies. So I hope that through this lecture I give you a summary of what happens in Singapore regarding the SDG goal number 15 and what you can do as a citizen on this island. So with that, we end up this part on the UN SDG with relation to Singapore, and I wish you a good day. Cheers.